Hey guys, excuse me, it's Lady Raven, the Wild Witch, and I don't know what happened in the previous video. It was a total insanity. Like everything went all over the place. So I decided to go ahead and just re-record it for you. If you're seeing this live, I don't think I had anybody seeing it live on the last one. So I don't know that there's anybody going to be seeing this one live, but I know people watch it after the fact. So I'm going to do the whole thing again. So let's talk about this energy right now of, Uranus retrograde, and how does that translate into the magic of what we're going to do, what we can tap into for ourselves. So let's talk a little bit about Uranus first. Uranus was discovered in the 1700s, and it was the very first planet that was discovered via telescope. And so, a lot of times, since Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, three planets that are very much well in use in astrology today, when you start looking at magic, there's not really a lot of associations with that in the more ancient texts. And the reason for it is because back then we just didn't know that these planets existed, right? So, in the 1700s, when Uranus was found, Neptune was found after that. Actually, Neptune, they found it through math, and then they had to go in and look at it, look at the to see if there was a planet there. That's how they discovered Neptune. And then obviously Pluto came shortly after that. And so these planets right now, when you start looking at it in that sense, these are the planets that the first seven planets are everything that we can see with our eyes, that we can experience in everyday life. And then the last three planets, a lot of times we tend to associate those planets with the things that live in our subconscious. And so one of the things that Uranus is the very first planet that steps into the subconscious. So it kind of rides that line, right? Uranus is what rules over all changes. It's an innovation planet. It's the rebel planet. It's the planet that rules technology, that thinking outside the box, all of those things. And I think it's pretty appropriate where it is, right? Because it's like right beyond the subconscious, which is, to me, is that drive and that force that keeps pushing you and pushing you and pushing you to do something different, to innovate, to make a change. You can't quite put your finger on it, but you can feel its presence pushing you and pushing you and pushing you. So it makes perfect sense to me of the placement of Uranus. So this is the Uranus energy that we generally have. Uranus is bold. It is in your face. It does not ask for for itself to be excused. It's not sorry for being the way it is. Uranus is not just outside the box thinking. Uranus is more like, where's the box? Is there even a box, right? So that is all of the energy that the planet Uranus is going to bring in. And so Uranus is in retrograde about 5 months out of the year every year. So this gives us about 5 months to see it move backward, and then it gives us 7 months for it to move forward. And so a lot of times, we talk about planets being in retrograde. It's not necessarily the opposite of what that planet does, right? But it kind of just shifts the focus of that energy. And with Uranus, what it does is, since most of the time when it's moving forward and it's direct, its energy is about external change. I am going to instigate these things to happen around me and the world around me. And I want to make something big happen. I want to make something different happen. So that is the energy of Uranus. And so you start moving into an area after that where you're saying, okay, let me bring that back within. Let me bring that back inward. And that is going to be the energy you're going to have when Uranus is in retrograde. It's that same idea of change, of innovation, but instead of pushing outward for that, we're going to be bringing that inward. So if you think about the Uranus cycle as moving direct for 7 and a retrograde for 5, this is a chance of change, then coming in here and process, sort it all out, sort out the change. What did I do? Why did I do it? What's the motivation? What could I learn from this? So that when it comes time to go direct again, what are the things that I'm going to go back out again? So that is the dynamic that I see between Uranus when it is in retrograde, excuse me, and when it is direct. that kind of idea of outward change and inward change and process. So outward and inward. So the other thing that is interesting about that is Uranus spends about 7 years in each sign. So a lot of times as it weaves in and out of this retrograde in that same sign, it allows you for long-term projects. It allows you 7 years of working with the energy of that sign in a very rebellious way to see how can I change things? How am I going to move things in one direction or another? So right now, Uranus is sitting in Taurus. And so when we're in the Uranus retrograde, we are going to be sitting in that, all in that Taurus energy, that retrograde Taurus energy. So as we start looking into that and saying, okay, let's bring that back in, what does that symbolize? So Taurus is ruled by element of Earth, and it's ruled by the planet Venus. Taurus is a fixed sign. It is all about, internal. I think I think it's a fixed sign. I can't remember off the top of my head if Taurus is fixed or mutable. Um, but Taurus is all about home, heart. It's all about keeping the things you have around you in a safe place for you. So it's the idea of having your little haven at home, that little place that is yours and yours alone, and that nobody's allowed in. It's about, well, all that Venus energy. It's about experiencing all of the good things in life. So stability, personal stability, both financial, health wise, in many different family wise, emotional, all of that is what Taurus craves. Taurus likes to be stable. Taurus likes to know where all of its things are. And this is where it kind of, deals best with all of that energy. So what's going to happen is you have Uranus, this energy that's, crazy. Let's do all of this change focused inward within the sign of Taurus. So this basically is going to bring us to a place to look inward and say, okay, how has the last few months affected my personal stability? How has the last few months maybe affected my personal health? How have all of these things that have been happening been impacting me, and how have I dealt with them? How have I been able to adapt to working with them? And so that is going to be the dynamic and the energetic dynamic that if you're a witch working through this with this retrograde energy, that is going to be energy that you can tap into. It's going to tapping into doing work for the home, for stability in the home, for the hearth. If you're trying to do remodeling right now, this would be a great time for spell work. If you are doing that inner search, Venus is always also the planet of love and the planet of, finding the beauty in the world around us, of being creative, of being unique, all of those things. Taurus brings with it, with its Venus energy. And so all of those things now we are forced to bring them within, which is what? Finding the beauty within ourselves, finding the creativity that exists within ourselves, taking all of that energy and bringing that energy inward right now. This is the work that we are doing when it's sitting in retrograde. So there's going to be a few tools you're going to be able to use for this. Number one, I'm going to talk about a few crystals. I'm not a big fan a lot of times of when people like to associate planetary energies with crystals. These are little bits and pieces of our planet. They cannot, in my opinion, to say that they're ruled by another planet makes absolutely no sense. They have their own energy. They may be ruled by different elements of how they were formed and all of that, but ultimately these are pieces of earth and they are tied to this planet. But in the magical community, we all love our correspondences. We have to have a correspondence for everything. And so we try to assign correspondences for literal pieces of our planet with other planets. So keep in mind that those energies, there may be some symbiotic relationships with those energies, some correlations, but ultimately these are pieces of our Earth. So I don't really go for a lot of these different planetary correspondences when they say, oh, this rock associates with that planet. I think what they're trying to describe is this rock has a certain type of energy. And we can say that without saying that this rock is going to be associated with a certain planet. So I'm looking right now at things that are going to be doing to help stabilize, right? All of this inner work. So two crystals are going to come to mind for that work. One of them is blue apatite. You guys know I'm a huge fan of blue apatite. Blue apatite is a great crystal to support you through any kind of change that you may be going through. Anything difficult that's happening in your life, if you just need that little personal umph, that little bit of like knowing that things are going to be okay, that knowing that, somebody's got your back, that you're not alone, feeling of being supported no matter what's happening in your life, that is the energy that blue apatite is going to bring. So this is going to be a great crystal for you to work with, any kind of inner work that you're doing. The second type of crystal that I'm going to recommend, because of all of that earth energy and that stability, is going to be moss agate. So moss agate is going to be a great crystal for, financial stability, stabilizing the home. If you are somebody who is looking to buy a house, this is a great time for you to sit down and really decide what kind of house you want, get your ducks in a row to do it, and find that perfect home for you. And you could use, moss agate, or sometimes also tree agate. Both of those work very well together, to do maybe some grid work, to bring that energy to yourself, or even to just doing some spell work. You can incorporate these in there. Now, in terms of doing any kind of inner self-love work, which is the other side of that, let's find the beauty within ourselves, right? Let's find the pieces of ourselves that we can love and that we can be proud of and that we can marvel at, the same way that we would at a piece of art, or you know or somebody else. So for those types of crystal, for that type of work, I like rose quartz, and I also like amethyst. Amethyst and rose quartz are really good, but one of my favorites for those is going to be really working with celestials, because celestials are all about the possibilities of things, right? Celestials for me, there's different kinds of celestials. The ones like this one here, I haven't worked with this one yet. It's a pretty recent addition to my collection, but if you look at them, they have those that lattice formation on the inside, that hopper formation. And essentially this forms when the crystal is undergoing so much change and there's way more silica being thrown at that crystal than it can handle, and it starts arranging itself in strange ways like this. So when you're looking at celestials or skeletal quartz, you're looking at crystals that were doing their own little growing and doing their own little crystal thing, and then the conditions around it suddenly change, and it forced that crystal to become something else for a little bit, and the conditions changed again. Which is why in a lot of these crystals you're going to see all kinds of stuff. Sometimes they'll have water trapped inside them, sometimes you'll look inside them, you'll see another crystal within. And so clear quartz and smoky is the most common, clear quartz is the second most common, and amethyst is probably the rarest version of it. This is one of my favorite pieces. This is actually a smoky amethyst, but it's got that celestial formation on the very top. Let me see if I can see. It's that lattice formation on the top. And so this is going to help you to look within. It's going to help you to kind of go back and appreciate the beauty, no matter what you've been through, no matter what life has thrown at you. You have made it past it. You have survived, and it's time to go back in and appreciate that part of yourself. So these are some crystals that can help you to do some work and take advantage of this Uranus retrograde energy. Now let's talk about some herbs that can do that for you. The three herbs that I'm going to talk about in particular are going to be tied to Venus. Number one is rose, which is a great herb for self-discovery and self-acceptance. Rose connects with universal love, with the heart chakra, and it's about seeing the beauty within ourselves, even though there may be thorns sitting in our stems, right? We still have this beautiful rose. The thorns don't take away from the beauty of the rose. Rose has a very high vibration energy. It's a wonderful, wonderful healing, self-healing, self-love herbal partner for you to work with. Another one that's really good for that is going to be hibiscus. Hibiscus has this gentleness about it. Hibiscus is also the herb of love. It's very much in that same frequency as rose, not quite as high as rose, but hibiscus is a lot of the times about finding that connection within, falling in love with yourself, which you may not have been able to do. So that is going to be the energy that hibiscus brings. And now it's doing that weird thing to my camera again. I hope it doesn't disconnect me. But crap. Why is it doing I hope that you guys can you may not see my video. Hear me. Hibiscus. And the last one that I like to recommend is going to be lemon is balm. Lemon balm is a great all-around herb to complete and total balance and support, right? Lemon balm is like blue appetite of herb. It's that foundational energy. It's that energy that brings overall support and care to wherever it is you are and whatever's going on right now. Back because this is looking very strange. And I'm not recording this video a third time. So this is it. So those are some of the energies that you can work with. And so now that you have those tools and you can actually put them down into witchy practice, you're going to have from uh, August all the way over through January to be working through and with those energies. One of the things that I'm going to say also is I looked up Uranus herbs, which you're not really going to find those in your average Cunningham book, because, like I said, a lot of ancient um, uh, correspondences did not have those planets because the planets had not been discovered yet, right? So we are going to basically, this is one of the best books for that. This is the Master Book of Herbalism by Paul Bayerl. I don't know how to pronounce that. But what I like about this, it's got very comprehensive tables in the back, and it does have tables for the herbs that are associated with the last 3 planets. And so one of the things that I found really interesting as I started to looking at the herbs of Uranus, right down here, you can see, you can start, if you start looking at that list, it's got allspice, it's got cinnamon, it's got nutmeg, it's got uh, coffee, it's got a lot of herbs that you would normally. And so it's interesting to me that those herbs are associated with Uranus as well as with their primary other correspondences. So you can pair those herbs up with it as well. And hell, I would challenge you to come up, even coffee itself. Coffee itself is ruled by Uranus. And so I would challenge you to come up with a ceremony around a pumpkin spice latte with all of those herbs in there, or maybe a ceremony around the chai tea. You can do a beautiful tea ceremony of bringing in all of that energy of change, all of that energy of self-acceptance into yourself by doing a tea ceremony with your favorite chai tea. So there's a lot of tools for you to work with, and this energy is going to be available to you until January. So you've got the next few months that you can tap into this internal change, internal acceptance, tap into the retrograde of Uranus, look deep within, bring Taurus with you, bring Venus with you, bring elemental earth with you. This is going to be a great time for all types of personal acceptance, body image issues. If you have those, a good time to work on that. Self-love, all of that work is going to be very much appropriate during this Uranus retrograde. So I hope to God that this video came out right, because I am not recording it again. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time. All right? Take care. Bye-bye.